You ever hear a sound that rips your heart clean out of your chest? Not a scream, not a gunshot, just the slow, tortured groan of old wood giving up 100 years of secrets. The kind of creak that echoes through your bones like a final breath from something alive and ancient, something that's held up your whole world without you even noticing. That was the fifth cement truck, 40 tons of rolling steel and malice, tires grinding over the weathered planks, the air thick with the acrid burn of exhaust that clung to your clothes, your skin, your memories, smashing straight through the main beam of the maple bridge my great-grandfather hewed with his own hands back in 1918, each splinter flying like shrapnel from a battlefield I never signed up for. And there, framed in her kitchen window like a queen watching an execution from her throne, stood Evelyn Sinclair, HOA president, coffee cup raised in a lazy toast, lips curled in a smile that said she'd already won, her eyes gleaming with the cold satisfaction of someone who turns lives into ledgers. I'm Jacob Harrington, 54, retired Army Corps of Engineers, the guy who used to build bridges that could take a direct hit from an RPG and still carry a tank column across a river in a war zone. Designing spans under fire where every calculation meant lives saved or lost, where the weight of steel and concrete became second nature. A language I spoke fluently in the dead of night with blueprints spread across makeshift tables in tents that smelled of mud and gun oil. And right then, standing on my own porch with diesel fumes choking the morning air, invading the quiet spaces where birds once sang freely, and my grandmother's teacups rattling like bones in a grave, fragile heirlooms passed down through generations now trembling, as if they too sensed the betrayal. I wasn't angry anymore. I was calculating, my mind shifting gears like an old engine kicking into overdrive, mapping out stress points not just in wood, but in people, in plans, in the fragile web of corruption she'd spun around my home. Because Evelyn thought she had me cornered. Keep sending those monsters across my private, century-old maple bridge that spans Whispering Brook. Watch it splinter under the relentless assault, each pass leaving deeper gouges in the timber, the vibrations traveling up through the ground into the foundation of my house, shaking pictures off walls and stirring dust from corners long forgotten. Slap an emergency demolition order on it. Force me to sell the creekfront acres my family has guarded. Since before Greenwood Acres even existed, acres where wildflowers bloomed unchecked and deer drank from the stream at dawn. Then flip the land for luxury condos while pocketing the profit, turning sacred ground into sterile boxes stacked high with views she'd sell to the highest bidder. What she didn't know was that I'd spent 20 years learning exactly how things break, and how to make sure the right people break with them, how vulnerabilities hide in plain sight, waiting for the precise application of pressure to reveal themselves. Let me take you back to how this whole nightmare began, unwinding the threads one by one so you can feel the slow build, the way tension creeps in like fog over the brook on a cool autumn morning. 3 months earlier, I was just a guy living quiet on the 45-acre homestead my great-granddad carved out of raw Virginia wilderness. Mornings spent with coffee on the porch listening to the brook murmur secrets to the willows. Afternoons tending the garden where my wife planted roses that bloomed defiant against the encroaching suburbia. The crown jewel being that hand-built maple bridge, every plank, every peg, every mortise and tenon joint placed by a man who believed some things should outlast the people who made them, his calloused hands shaping the wood with tools forged in a time when craftsmanship was a covenant with the future. My grandpa courted my grandma on that bridge, whispering promises under a harvest moon while fireflies danced like living stars. My dad taught me to skip stones from its railing, his laughter echoing off the water as he showed me how to read the ripples for luck. I carried my wife Rebecca across it the day we got married, her veil catching the breeze like a sail on uncharted waters, and later carried our newborn daughter, Claire, the same way, her tiny fists clutching at my shirt as if she already knew this place was home, the scent of creek water and wild honeysuckle wrapping around us like a promise that some things stay sacred, untouched by the rush of progress that devours everything in its path. Then Greenwood Acres sprouted up around us like perfect, poisonous mushrooms, manicured lawns replacing wild meadows, streetlights drowning out the stars, and into the neighborhood slithered Evelyn Sinclair, 49, ex-corporate attorney, hair that cost more per month than most people's car payments, always pinned back in a style that screamed control, smile sharp enough to shave with. Her presence like a shadow lengthening over the sunlit days we once took for granted. 6 months after moving in, she'd sweet-talked and strong-armed her way to HOA president, board meetings turning into her personal courtroom where she wielded bylaws like weapons. And her very first decree was that my bridge, my beautiful, living piece of history, was now a substandard hazard that threatened property values, her words slicing through the air like a judge's gavel. She showed up at my door in a white blazer that probably cost more than my truck, legal notices in hand, voice dripping honey over broken glass. "Mr. Harrington, we're here to help you modernize." Her eyes scanning my property like a predator assessing prey, noting every imperfection she could exploit. I told her the bridge was standing proud when this land was still forest and cattle trails, my voice steady but laced with the quiet fury of someone defending holy ground. She just smiled wider and said, "Progress doesn't ask permission, Jacob. Replace it with an approved concrete span or enjoy $500 a day fines." Her threat hanging in the air like smoke from a distant fire. I refused, of course, standing firm on the porch steps, feeling the weight of generations behind me. So the cement trucks started coming, unannounced at first, then regular as clockwork, rumbling down the road like invading tanks. Not little delivery vans, full-on, 40-ton beasts, rerouted straight across my private bridge by HOA-approved orders, drivers shrugging apologies while their machines crushed the life from the wood. Each pass cracked another fiber of heartwood, sent another shiver through the house, coated the morning air in dust and exhaust until the honeysuckle smelled like a diesel refinery, the particles settling on leaves, on windowsills, on the very breath we took. 3 weeks in, Evelyn's cousin, who just happened to be the county building inspector, showed up, clipboard in hand, his inspection a farce scripted in advance, and declared the bridge critically unsafe, his words delivered with the flat detachment of a bureaucrat complicit in the crime. 30 days to demolish or the county would do it and bill me, the ultimatum landing like a boot on my neck. That night I sat on the railing, running my fingers over the tool marks my great-granddad left behind, feeling every scar, every story etched into the grain, the wood warm under my touch as if it remembered the hands that shaped it. And I made myself a promise. This wasn't about a bridge anymore. This was about family, legacy, and teaching a bully what happens when you push someone who knows exactly how far a structure can be stressed before it snaps back, before the counterforce becomes inevitable and devastating. The real kick in the teeth came on the morning of Claire's wedding, a day we'd planned for months with every detail polished like heirloom silver, the backyard tint glowing under string lights, fresh-cut flowers from Rebecca's garden perfuming the air, 60 guests arriving in their finest, smiles wide and hearts full. Perfect June day, white tint in the backyard, 60 guests, my daughter glowing in her grandmother's lace dress, the fabric whispering against the grass as she moved, photographer catching every tearful smile, every tender glance between her and her groom, the vows exchanged with voices trembling from emotion. And then we heard it, that low, predatory growl of diesel engines rolling closer, closer, building like thunder on the horizon, until 6 cement mixers thundered across the bridge in perfect formation, timed to hit during the ceremony like a military assault on joy itself, the ground vibrating so intensely that flower arrangements toppled, guests clutched at chairs, and the bridge let out a wail that pierced the soul. The bridge shook so hard my 87-year-old mother froze halfway across with her walker, knuckles white, eyes wide with terror, while champagne flutes shattered and guests scattered, and Claire's perfect day turned into a war zone, her face crumpling as dreams dissolved in exhaust clouds that billowed like smoke from a bombed-out village. I got it all on video, every terrified face, every diesel cloud, every tremor that rippled through the crowd like fear itself. And when the last truck rumbled away, I looked up and saw Evelyn in her window again, raising that same damn coffee mug like a victory salute, her silhouette a dark stain against the light. That was the moment the rage turned ice cold, crystallizing into resolve, my engineer's mind dissecting the chaos for patterns, for weaknesses. Overheard 2 drivers laughing about double overtime from Sinclair Construction, their voices carrying on the wind like unwitting confessions, Did a little digging through public records late into the night. Coffee growing cold beside me as screens flickered with revelations. And there it was. Evelyn owned 40% of the company supplying every drop of concrete in the neighborhood. Her financial ties a tangled web of self-interest. She was literally breaking my bridge with her own trucks so she could sell me the replacement at triple the price. A scheme so brazen it bordered on artistry, but one that left fingerprints everywhere if you knew where to look. Classic racket, the kind that thrives in shadows until someone shines a light. I lawyered up with Harold Benson, an old family friend whose firm handshake belied the shark beneath. Filed for a restraining order backed by timelines and photos showing the bridge's pristine state before the onslaught. Got an independent engineer, Dr. Elena Vasquez from the State University, to document the deliberate overload damage with sensors humming like vigilant sentinels. Her report a fortress of facts detailing every fracture's origin, and for one brief, shining moment, I thought the system might actually work, that justice wasn't just a word but a force as reliable as gravity. Then a golf buddy judge overturned the order on a technicality that reeked of backroom deals. The trucks came back twice as often, engines roaring from dawn to dusk, and the bridge started crying in earnest. Beams splitting with audible cracks that echoed like gunfire. Handrails cracking along grains that had held strong for decades. The whole structure groaning like it was begging me to save it from the torment. But here's the thing about old wood and older rights. Sometimes the past is stronger than any new regulation. Its roots deeper, its claims unyielding. Late one night, sleepless with the house creaking in sympathy, I drove to the county courthouse under a moonless sky, sweet-talked a clerk who'd known my grandpa into pulling century-old surveys from dusty archives that smelled of aged paper and forgotten disputes. And there, in faded ink on brittle pages, was the motherlode. My great-grandfather hadn't just built a bridge. He'd secured perpetual riparian water rights to the entire Whispering Brook system, rights that predated the subdivision. The HOA, every covenant Evelyn was hiding behind, a legal shield forged in an era when water meant life itself. Every house in Greenwood Acres owed its waterfront amenity fees to rights my family never sold. The discovery unfolding like a map to buried treasure, each line redrawing the battlefield in my favor. I had her, but victory demanded patience, a slow build of evidence. We built the case like a fortress. Historic designation paperwork filed with trembling hands. Structural reports proving the bridge was stronger than most modern spans despite the abuse. Secret trail cameras catching Evelyn's loyalists loosening bolts at 3 a.m. under cover of darkness. Their furtive movements captured in grainy footage that played like a spy thriller. Forged demolition orders bearing seals that didn't quite match. Fake emergency county permits typed on paper too new to be official. Every dirty trick documented in high definition, stacked like ammunition in a war room that was once my quiet study. And still she kept coming. Desperate now, cornered animal sharp, her moves growing erratic as the noose tightened. The final play came at 4 a.m. the night before the big town hall. Floodlights piercing the dark like accusatory fingers, excavators growling to life. Evelyn herself directing a midnight demolition crew with forged environmental emergency orders, screaming that the bridge had collapsed and was poisoning protected wetlands, her voice cracking with the strain of lies unraveling. Except I'd quietly reinforced the critical beams with hidden steel weeks earlier, just in case. And when the excavator bit down it screamed sparks instead of splintering wood, metal clashing against metal in a symphony of failure, buying me the 30 seconds I needed for the sheriff, the news vans, and half the neighborhood to show up and watch Evelyn's empire collapse in real time, live on the morning broadcast. Her face illuminated in the harsh glow as denial gave way to defeat. By the time the sun came up, painting the brook in hues of gold and promise, Evelyn Sinclair was in handcuffs, mascara running in black rivulets down her cheeks, still trying to shout orders while the cameras rolled, and neighbors who'd hated me for months stood slack-jawed as every lie unraveled in front of them, the air buzzing with the murmur of awakening truth. The town hall that night wasn't a meeting. It was a reckoning. The community center packed with bodies and tension, the scent of stale coffee mingling with the sweat of anticipation. I laid it all out on the projector. The water rights map from 1918, its edges frayed but lines resolute. The secret condo plans with my land already drawn in as if it were hers by divine right. The forged documents bearing her invisible fingerprints. The sabotage footage playing in loops that exposed every shadowy act. The bank loans using property she didn't own as collateral. Each slide building the case like layers of unassailable armor. One by one, the pieces clicked into place until the room sounded like a jury delivering a guilty verdict with every gasp, every whispered outrage. When the county attorney announced that every HOA fee collected for creek access over the past 15 years had been fraud, you could feel the temperature drop 10 degrees. Homeowners shifting in seats as realization dawned that they'd been pawns in a game rigged from the start. When the EPA inspector confirmed her condos would have wiped out endangered salamander habitat, people started crying, tears of betrayal mixing with relief. And when the sheriff cuffed her a second time in 12 hours, nobody clapped. Because it wasn't victory, it was just the end of a nightmare we'd all been living inside without knowing. A collective exhale, as chains we didn't see were finally broken. 6 months later, I'm sitting on the newly restored Maple Bridge, the wood sealed with care, every repair a testament to resilience, teaching my grandbaby how to fish from the exact spot 4 generations of Harringtons learned the same lesson, her small hands gripping the rod with wide-eyed wonder. The morning mist rising soft and clean again. No diesel, no dust, just honeysuckle and creek song and the quiet knowledge that some things are worth burning the world down to protect, worth every sleepless night, every calculated risk. Evelyn's doing 18 months in federal prison, law license revoked, company bankrupt, every penny of profit seized for restitution that funded community healing. Her cousin fired amid scandals that rippled through local government like aftershocks. The HOA was dissolved and reborn with transparency rules written in our blood and tears. Meetings now forums for genuine dialogue rather than decrees. The bridge is now on the National Register of Historic Places, and scholars come from 3 states just to touch the tool marks my great-granddad left behind, their notes scribbling furiously as they uncover techniques lost to time. We started a foundation, scholarships for engineering students focused on preservation, creek restoration projects that turned polluted banks into thriving ecosystems, turned her greed into something beautiful the way old wood turns trauma into deeper grain. The salamanders returning in numbers that drew researchers and grants, the brook flowing clearer than in decades. So here's the question I still ask myself on quiet mornings when the water's running clear and the sun hits the railing just right. When someone comes for everything your family ever loved, how far is too far to go to stop them? Is there a line between justice and vengeance when the law itself gets weaponized against you? I protected what was mine, exposed corruption that could have ruined hundreds of lives, and watched a bully get exactly what she deserved. But sometimes, when the wind moves through those old maple beams just right, I swear I can still hear the echo of that 5th truck, and I wonder if the price of winning was higher than any of us want to admit. What would you have done? Where do you draw the line when someone tries to erase your history for profit? Drop your stories below. I read every single one, because some fights need witnesses, and some bridges were built to carry more than just people. They were built to carry memory.